Hello everyone. Pardon the voice, Valentine's birthday 2 days ago. You know the drill by now. But today, for anyone who is interested in which books I did DNF in the month of September, you're going to find out. So there were quite a lot, as you can imagine, with such a big reading month, which was so wonderful to just read. I did end up DNFing a total of 28 books. So I will not go into depth for each of them. There's 28. I'm going to keep it brief, but I'll just give you a little synopsis of what the book was about and why I DNF'd it. So without much further ado, let's just get started. So we're starting with Pluralities by R.V. Silver. I did originally choose this as one of my short books to start the month off with. It is a sci-fi queer kind of fantasy novella about a fed-up retail employee who can see the future and rethinks not only her future, but also her gender. There is also a space prince, rogue, who likes to gamble and chat to the sentient spaceship bestie. And basically in this world, the women have to write the word she on their cheek every day, but the men don't need to do any of that stuff. This was very heavy on trans and gender issues. So if you like stories about that, this might be for you. The reason I DNF'd it is I just did not like the writing style. It was very colloquial and sassy, and the narrative was quite confusing, and I just wasn't pulled into the story, wasn't connected. And that's like one of the main reasons why I DNF books is I'm just not feeling it. If I'm not caring and I'm not eager to get back to the book when I put it down, I may as well DNF because it's just not the right fit for me. And then I picked up The Wisdom of Insecurity, A Message for an Age of Anxiety by Alan W. Watts. So I like Alan W. Watts. I've listened to a lot of his videos and I've read other works of his. With this one, even though I still think he's wise and somewhat enjoyable, this particular book put me to sleep better than melatonin. Just did not hold my attention. And there was a lot more about the Christian God than I would personally like in my books. So yeah, for this one, it's just more of the same. And like I said, it didn't capture my attention. But Alan Watts in general, I have liked his stuff before, but this one just wasn't speaking to me. And then I picked up Lucy by Jamaica Kincaid, which was also meant to be part of the short books collection. And I guess this would be sort of a classic, maybe feminist litfic. And it's about Lucy, who is a teenage girl from the West Indies, and she comes to North America to work as an au pair for a family. The issue I had with this was that Lucy was filled with a lot of self-righteous indignation. And I think that maybe it's justified, but I only read 30 pages, so I can't really say in full. But the way that she used it to constantly spew bitterness and venom on everyone around her as if they were personally responsible for all of her issues and anger was just a major buzzkill. Like, I understand, white man bad. But the woman that she was living with and working for, I don't know why she deserved such wrath. Like, there was one moment where she took Lucy to see daffodils, because for this woman, daffodils were a wonderful source of joy, a beautiful memory she had, and she wanted to share that happiness with Lucy. She wasn't to know that Lucy had a negative connotation with daffodils. How could she know that? But Lucy obviously had that experience. Instead of just communicating that to her employer, she just wanted to poison that woman's love for daffodils as well and make her suffer along with her. She was just a very miserable character. Like I said, I understand maybe things had happened to her and she was a victim of racism and the like, but you can still choose to be kind to others, especially others who haven't personally wronged you, but she chose not to. And yeah, she was a bitter pill, and I didn't like her character and just the way she was interacting with everybody. Like I said, she was a Debbie Downer and I just wasn't feeling it. The next book that I DNF'd was The Absinthe Underground by Jamie Pacton. So I do love the cover. I loved the idea of this being sort of like a fantasy Moulin Rouge kind of book. It was very Art Deco, and in the story you have two girls living together. There's a sapphic element. One of them steals posters because they're of value because of the artist they're painted by. And in the end, they supposedly meet the actual absinthe fairy and try to help them. But my God, I couldn't stand one of the characters, Sybil. So she was the poster thief, and she lives with her lady friend, Esme, who is this absolute homebody introvert who loves to tinker, and she's got such a big heart. But Sybil was constantly manipulating her, and Esme didn't want Sybil to partake in these criminal activities anymore. But Sybil roped her in every goddamn time with no intention of stopping. And I hate that. No. So I'm like, I'm not going to root for these two to be together. Esme needs to get away from this toxic bitch. So I decided to DNF that book. I then picked up How to Age Disgracefully by Claire Pooley, which is about senior citizens solving crimes. And I think maybe at this point that senior citizens solving crimes just isn't a plot that I enjoy. I've tried quite a few different versions of that from different authors, and I just find myself bored and just not caring. It's not that I don't care about senior citizens, but maybe too, I think that cozy mystery is also not one of my genres. I'm not a big mystery reader in terms of, well, there's a crime and we need to solve it, unless it's like a thriller element involved. I don't know. I think the best one that I've read was The Golden Spoon. That's the one I enjoyed the most, but maybe it's because it also had a baking element, and I do watch a lot of the baking shows. The one that we like the most is Nailed It. So yeah, this just wasn't my taste. I then picked up The God and the Gamiko, the first in the Fates Thread series by Sophie Kim. So this looked super cute, and people said if you like Korean drama, you'll like this. And it's about this world where gods like kind of walk around, and I think one of them is a kitsune, one's a trickster god, and it's a grumpy sunshine dynamic. But my God, it was just so silly. It was so silly. These are meant to be like centuries old gods, and they were acting like teens, dude. Just so immature, and I didn't like the dynamic and the lingo and the way they were interacting. It just made me cringe. I can't. If you're thousands of years old, no. So yeah, I just think, like I said, this is not for me. I think a lot of people are loving this, cute covers, but just I wasn't the right audience. I then picked up Practical Demon Keeping, the first in the Pine Cove series by Christopher Moore, and I picked this up for the Beetlejuice reading blog. This is a very humorous sort of urban fantasy horror, and it's got a very comical style. It reminded me of like the Sean Penn Surfer Dudes, but the writing style and tone of the book just weren't for me. I think with humorous books, you do have to have the same sense of humor, otherwise they don't land, and it just feels a bit awkward because you know that you're meant to be smirking or laughing and you're not. So I did DNF that one. I then picked up Skullduggery Pleasant, the first in the series of the same name by Derek Landy and Tom Percival. So this is a YA, it says middle grade. I wouldn't probably recommend it for middle grade. Fantasy, sort of urban fiction paranormal book, which I also picked up for the Beetlejuice reading blog, and it's about a young girl who suddenly inherits, I think, her aunt's house. And then this very enigmatic man who's actually like a talking skeleton crosses paths with her, and one day while she's in the house, burglars enter, they want something of her aunt's, she doesn't know what it is, they try to murder her, Skullduggery intervenes, and then she's like, you know what, I like adventure, let me in on what's going on here and who my aunt really was, and maybe it was her uncle, it might have been her uncle, I don't quite remember, it was a long time ago that I read it. But look, I think it was good, but it was young, and I didn't have to read it, so I decided not to. But I think it actually might be a really good series, especially if it's like YA middle grade. Maybe middle grades could read it. It was a bit fraught, like she was kidnapped and threatened with death, so, but then again, middle graders do read that, so yeah, maybe, but I didn't read the whole thing, so I can't really give my opinion on if I think it's completely appropriate. But yeah, it seemed good, but I was just very ambivalent about it, that's all, so I thought, I'll let it go. I then picked up Priest Daddy by Patricia Lockwood. This is a memoir of the author's about her childhood. It just wasn't for me. I decided to give this author another go after I read their poetry book, Motherland, Fatherland, Homeland Sexuals, and I liked the rape joke poem, but I didn't care. I didn't care. Like, there's very few memoirs that I would really want to read. They have to have something amazing about them, and this was just very middle of the road for me, so I decided to let it go. I then picked up Gold Rush by Olivia Peter. So this was part of my TBR for this month, and this is about pre-Me Too, and I think the woman ends up being essayed by a celebrity. And what I realized is I don't like celebrity books, and I don't mean like just in terms of celebrity memoirs. I mean having celebrities as the focus in books. So anything that's social media heavy, celebrity heavy, it just gives me the ick. and I don't care. And that was the case with this one. I thought, I just don't care about Hollywood and famous people and things like that. Unless, like I said, there's some other element that's interesting, but this one didn't capture my interest. I love the cover, but yeah, it just wasn't a genre, I guess, for me. I then picked up Made for You by Jenna Satterthwaite, which was a previous nominee for the Wild Ones Book Club. And this is a sci-fi thriller about a woman who is a synth. So she was constructed to appear on a bachelor show, which she won, and she married the guy, and it's about their relationship. And once again, that whole like sort of celebrity TV element came into play, and I don't like it. So I literally went from Gold Rush to this, and I thought, yes, this is solidifies for me that anything, too media-ish, I might be put off by, and I was. So this one just. I then picked up Everything, Nothing, Someone by Alice Carriere. And this is a memoir about a woman's coming of age in the 90s and struggling with dissociative disorder. And she was the daughter of a very famous artist named Jennifer Bartlett and a movie star actor, Matteo Carriere. And look, it was very well written, but I just wasn't in the mood to read someone's life story. And it was heavy. There was a lot of child neglect. I thought, I'm just not in the space for it. But I think this probably would be an excellent read if you do like memoirs. And then I picked up Winter Harvest by Ioana Papadopoulou. And this is a Demeter retelling. So it's about the Greek goddess Demeter. The covers are stunning for this. There's 2 covers and they are absolutely gorgeous. But look, when I picked it up, I just found that I don't care about Demeter. I'm sorry. I'm more into Persephone. And I thought, after reading Medea, even though it was a good graphic novel, I thought I can't really read about the Greek gods I don't care for unless it's phenomenal. And like the writing is good, but it just wasn't amazing. It was a very slower paced story as well, and it was a bit more serious in tone and had a bit more of a sort of ancient-y language to go with, I guess, being the Greek gods. It was true to the characters and the pantheon, but I just, I wasn't riveted. It was feeling mid, so I decided to let it go. Then I read Whoever You Are, Honey by Olivia Gatwood. So this is a sort of sci-fi litfic that says it's about how women build themselves between the gaze of love, friendship, and the algorithm. So it's supposed to be feminist and set in the hyper-digital age. I don't even remember it. I'm going to be honest, I don't really remember this book. So it didn't leave an impression on me, I guess. And yeah, it's completely gone. If I picked it up and read it again, it'd probably jog my memory, but I don't have it on hand. But yeah, it wasn't memorable. And I guess that's probably also the main reason I would have put it down. I picked up These Burning Stars, the first in the Kindom trilogy by Bethany Jacobs. This was meant to be one of my TBR books, and it is a sci-fi space opera, quite queer. And I remember in this one, there are 3 women as the main characters. One is a thief. There are like ruling systems in play. I remember one of the main women characters felt very sociopathic. She seemed to be completely devoid of empathy and relished in killing and maiming and torturing and fucking with people. But yeah, once again, it's just the feeling. The feeling wasn't there. I felt like a bit of a chore to pick it up, so I decided to DNF it. I then picked up Our Strangers, Stories by Lydia Davis. This is sort of a short story, anthology, poetry collection, and I guess people have said it really focuses on the small details of life, but I just none of the stories captivated me or entertained me or resonated with me. It was fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But like I said, for me, if a book feels less than a 3.5 star, I do try to DNF them because there are too many books and so little time. And I know that there are books out there that will absolutely light me on fire and I will be dying to continue reading. So yeah, I am trying to get back into my bit more strict DNFing because I've been having quite a lot of books that are less than 3 stars, and that's not ideal. I then picked up How It Works Out by Miriam Lacroix. This is a queer sort of sci-fi magical realism book about a lesbian couple, and they're sort of imagining different scenarios. So each little story is like, what if in this one they found a random baby in an alleyway? What if in this one of the wives develops a fetish for consuming her wife's flesh? So quite disturbing. I read 2 of the stories. They were fine, but it was, I don't know, it is a bit weird and creepy, but I just didn't care. I don't really need to see any more what ifs about this couple. That's the way I felt about it. But I think some people would really enjoy it. It's a bit more on the weird fiction side. I then DNF'd The Cat Inside by William S. Burroughs. This is sort of just like a collection of this guy's meditative musings and thoughts about cats, but also not about cats. It wasn't solely about cats. The issue that I had was when his cat came back mauled, he decided not to take it to the vet, even though he thought, I probably should have. And then the cat goes back outside and never returns. And he assumes, well, it must have died from its injuries. And I'm just like, yeah, cool, dude. Really responsible pet owner. No. So this was not for me. Then I picked up The Bright Sword by Lev Grossman. I think this might have been on my TBR as well. So this is about Camelot. So it's a historical fantasy fiction. And it's sort of after Arthur has fallen and the Knights of the Round Table are in disarray, and you've got a young man who is on a pilgrimage to become one of said knights and doesn't know what's actually gone on while he's been on his journey. It started off really well. There was a humorous element to it that felt a bit Monty Python, but once again, I just didn't get into it, and it slowed down its pacing quite a bit. It's very male-centric, but I think the right person really loved this. But yeah, it wasn't jiving with me. I then picked up Eden Hope by Louise Linay. And this is a litfic about, I guess, family. It says Marnie is 63 and downwardly mobile, and her middle-class marriage is long gone, and she's living in a granny flat behind a stranger's house. So I think it's just about a bunch of people coming together. Yeah, didn't get into it. I found it a bit dull and boring. It's, a genre, I guess that's not generally to my taste as well. Like litfic's just about family or friends. They can be a bit dull for me, and that was the case with this one. Beautiful cover though. It caught my attention at the library, and I thought, I'll bring it home. The next book was Night of the Witch, the first in the Witch and Hunter series by Sarah Rush and Beth Revis. And this is about a witch and a witch hunter. So fantasy. I did not like The Witch Hunter. Okay, when someone turns on their own family, so he dobbed his mother in. His mother was a witch, so she burned at the stake. And when he was old enough to become a witch hunter himself, he became one, and now he's going to get his sister and have her torched as well. And I'm just like, fuck you, dude. Like, seriously? At the very least, you could just ignore that your mum's a witch or your sister's a witch, but no, gotta have them killed. Thou must not suffer a witch to live. So I was like, no, I don't care if this witch is able to turn his heart. Like, he can go suck a dick. So yeah, I was just very anti this guy. There's like, I've seen witch books done before, but the witch hunter has to have some kind of morality. They have to let children go, or they have to save a family member. They have to have some shred of humanity there to show that they are teetering on their beliefs, that maybe they aren't just stone cold killers who have had their minds brainwashed. But no, not this dude. So no, thank you. Then I picked up The Garden Against Time by Olivia Lang, and I think this is probably going to be my favorite book cover of this month. It is stunning. I absolutely love it. And this is a sort of collection of essays about gardening. So it's a nonfic. Oh, I like gardens, but I guess not this much. Look, she does go into historical facts, and she talks about the Garden of Eden and also slavery. Like, she's trying to weave a lot of things into the gardening thing, and it just made it very dry and very historical nonfiction. And I'm like, no, I liked the idea of it, but the way it was executed, I was, nodding off. So we don't want that. Then I grabbed Tell Me an Ending by Joe Harkin, and this is a sci-fi kind of along the lines of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. So people are able to delete memories. Some people are not told that they've had the memories deleted. Some people are aware they've had them deleted. And now there's a situation where some people are wanting to have it reversed. But I was like, I've seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. That was fantastic, and this isn't riveting enough. It's not well done enough for me to read it and go through a similar storyline. So it was fine. I think maybe a lot of people would enjoy this, but for me, I was like, oh, it's mid. And then there was The Scarlet Veil, the first in the series by the same name, by Shelby Mahoodan. This is an YA fantasy. It says romance, so it's a romantasy vampire one that's perfect for people who love Serpent and Dove or Sarah J Maas, you know, very generic. And that's how it felt. It just felt like more of the same. And I'm like, no, I can't do any mediocre romantasy books like Sarah J Maas, Serpent and Dove. Like, no, you have to be a bit more special. And yeah, so this wasn't for me. And like, it's YA, so if it's going to be a YA romantasy, it has to be really good and feel really adult, and this didn't. Then I picked up Suicide Blonde by Darcy Steinker, and this is I'd say an erotic litfic. There's a lot about sex in here, and it's about this young woman who is clearly in an unhealthy relationship with a man, and it is very well written. I will say that. It was well done, but yeah, her boyfriend's bisexual, and I wasn't in the mood for reading about a dysfunctional relationship where the people are so toxic to each other. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not in the mood. It did remind me a bit of Acts of Desperation. So maybe if you like that, you'd really like this. But this one I think was even better written. But I just wasn't in the right headspace. And I think that is a big thing. If you're not in the right mood for something, it's not going to appeal to you. So that was the case with it. Then I picked up The Proper Thing and Other Stories by Seanan Maguire, illustrated by Carla McNeil. So this is a collection of short story, fantasy kind of horror books. Not, I wouldn't say fully horror, but, you know, a little macabre, a little bit twisted. I read half of the stories. I only liked one of them. Like, Seanan Maguire's writing is great, but sometimes just stories or characters, I don't feel anything, you know, the connection's missing. The story that I really liked was Now Rest, My Dear. And this was giving Miss Honey and Matilda, but imagine instead Miss Honey is a librarian and you're a latchkey child, just like Matilda, and you go to the library and she gives you all of her attention. And as you grow up, you fall in love with her. But there's also another kind of twist in play, which I can't give away. Even though you call it really easily. Like, you're like, oh, I think this is what's happening here. But yeah, look, I love Matilda and Miss Honey. When I was a kid, I wanted Miss Honey to be my mum. As an adult, more like mummy. Complicated, but yeah, look, did I feel like this was a grooming relationship? No, I didn't get those vibes. Otherwise I would have been given the ick. And she was only with Miss Honey, I think, for like a year, and then she returns later, like as an adult. So it wasn't like they saw each other every day while she was growing up. It was 1 year, and like I said, the love changed from like, oh, I love this person for giving me care and love and attention, and then, oh, I love this person. So, but yeah, all the books are a bit uncomfy, all the stories I mean, but yeah, I just DNF'd it because I didn't care for any of the other ones. Like, they're fine, but like, I don't want to read fine books. I don't want 3 stars. I preferably want ones that I rate a 4 or higher. So I let it go. I then picked up The Shadow of the Gods, the first in the Bloodsworn saga by John Gwynne. So this is like an epic fantasy with these Leviathan massive creatures, and it's Nordic, and it was very heavy on Nordic terms and language. So there were, I think, 3 characters, and obviously some I liked a bit more than others. It was slow paced, and yeah, it just, I don't know, it wasn't knocking my socks off. You know, like, I did give it a decent amount because with these books you do have to start to get into them. But I thought, oh, I'd rather just read, like I said, you know, Age of Myth appealed more, or what was it? Undying Sword. I can't remember. I'll put the name of the first one. I just read the sequel to it. It reminds me of those kinds of books, and I enjoyed them more quicker into the story. This one was taking a bit too long. It just felt a bit dry in a way. But it could possibly be something I return to in the future. You know, it's one of those books where I'm like, I might give it a go if I'm really, really feeling like in the mood for an epic fantasy, but then I might just think, oh, I'll try something else, and maybe that will get me captivated quicker. And then the last DNF of this month was Fangirl, the manga by Sam Maggs, Rainbow Rowell, and Gabby Nam. Okay, so you've got two girls. I think they were twin sisters, and the main character, Kath, felt a bit codependent, and her sister Ren decided once they went to university, she was bouncing, she was bailing on her sister. She's like, no, I'm not going to room with you, even though her sister has major anxiety. She's like, I want to have my own life and be my own person and cut off all my hair so I'm not tied to you. So off she goes. She does, in a sense, really abandon her sister Kath. Sister Kath is spiraling a bit. You know, she said she has anxiety. She ends up getting a roommate. She is supposedly the author of a very famous fanfic. So she writes fanfic of Simon Snow. So it's a gay story. But, you know, she tries to keep her identity under wraps. So she's very absorbed in that. And then she ends up sort of, her roommate has a boyfriend. And she ends up spending a lot of time with her roommate's boyfriend to the point where I'm like, oh, this is making me very uncomfortable. I don't think it's appropriate. I think she's actually developing feelings. Obviously, I didn't finish the story, but it felt like she was starting to develop feelings for her roommate's boyfriend. So yuck. The point that I DNF'd it was when they were heavily promoting Starbucks, just horribly, just Starbucks. One of the characters then works at Starbucks. And I'm like, no, I'm not really a fan of Starbucks. And I don't like in books when they do product placement or like companies, and or if it feels in a way that, like I said, almost feels like it's sponsored, you know. It gives me the ick. I'm like, you can just make a coffee house with a different name. It doesn't have to be Starbucks. So that's a point that I DNF'd it. I wasn't liking it either. I didn't like Kathy or her sister Ren. They weren't likable. And then after I DNF'd it, I read that there was a lot of problems with the author being, I think they said racist. I can't remember. But I was like, yeah, okay, I'm glad I DNF'd it. Didn't need to go on with that one. So those were the DNFs for this month. If I was going to possibly try one again, maybe, like I said, Shadow of the Gods, but it's like I said, there's so many books, and in ones that you can't possibly read every single book that's out there. And as an experienced reader now, I know that a really good book normally captures me within the first 50 pages. Like, it's something I want to return to. It's something I don't want to put down. If I can put it down, if I'm finding myself drifting off, if I'm finding myself just not caring to even know what happens in the end, DNF. Like, I know a lot of people have issues with it, but yeah, not me. And I do sort of oscillate between being really good with DNFing, like very quickly going, no, and then sometimes giving it the benefit of the doubt and thinking, oh, it could turn around. I think maybe 1 out of 10 times has that happened. Has there been a turnaround? Most of the time, no, babes. Like, the books that you love, the books that strike you and are memorable, are normally good from the beginning. And that's something I really want to keep in mind. Like, it can be, you can start to second guess yourself though if you pick up maybe 4 books in a row and you just weren't getting into them and you think, is it me? Am I the problem? It's me. But it's like, no, it's just, that book isn't for you. There is a book for every reader. And you've just got to, unfortunately, you have to sift through and you have to be like, that's a rock. Ooh, ruby, nice. And that's just the way it is. So if you see the next DNF is going to be like 50 books for that video, it might as well be. Like, I'm trying to this month, hopefully get some more 4 and 5 stars. I think because my average rating last month was a 3, probably less because there were some books that I don't officially star on Goodreads. So I think it was probably less than that. And I want to spend my days reading books I enjoy and that become favorites and ones that I wholeheartedly could recommend to people. But that was everything for this DNF video. And I think it's better that I just put all the DNFs in one because I know a lot of people don't care about DNFs. And that way, all my vlogs are DNF free. But until next time, stay wild, star child.